You as a viewer have a very particular set of skills, and by the end of this video, hopefully you'll know whether or not the qualities of this camera match up to your needs. First of all, let's understand that this is primarily a stills camera, not a video camera, which is kind of a problem for me because I'm primarily a videographer and a photographer second. So the order of this video is going to go as follows. We're going to have first impressions, which is kind of what I noticed within like the first couple of hours of using it. Then we're going to have like the advantages and disadvantages, stuff you'll notice after like, a couple months of heavy use. We'll have a brief photographer review where we covered the aspects of photography with this thing, not just video. And then we're going to end off with my final decision about what I decided for this camera and why I purchased it. So for first impressions, I did notice a few things, but understand that I am coming from a 6D Mark II, which is a little bit of an older model. It's big and clunky and raw. So this is small, sleek, very thin, very portable, very compact. Some of the controls are a little bit different, like the aperture wheel is on top on this camera versus around the arrows. Obviously this one has 4K. It's a little bit more minimal, less controls, but it's still easy to use. Like, it doesn't restrict you. The camera feels really good in your hand. It's not cheaply built. That being said, let's talk about my favorite parts of this camera and how it fit my needs. So possibly the most obvious part and the part that they like to advertise, it is full frame, which is fantastic in and of itself, but you combine full frame with a very slim body and you actually get a lot of real estate to play around with. Possibly my favorite part of this whole discussion is the price. Guys, the fact that you can buy one of these things for less than $900 is just pretty ridiculously cool. Now that's not brand new obviously, but we got this thing for $848 or something, two of them. For me and possibly most of you guys, we're not necessarily in a position where we're, throwing around thousands of dollars and doing these massive gigs and all this stuff. But for just like hobby use, for YouTube, for going on a photo shoot, for doing family portraits, whatever you want to end up using it for $900 or less, like that's a really reasonable price. Now let's move on to the dual pixel focus. In 1080p, this thing has very smooth, very quick facial tracking. It has retinal tracking as well, which is really awesome. Now let's shift over to the disadvantages for video. Like honestly, I even hesitate to go here a little bit because it's kind of like comparing a Mustang to a pickup truck. Like, yeah, you can pile it full of stuff, but like it's not necessarily what it's made for. So when I talk about the disadvantages, I'm not bashing Canon at all. Like, that's just not quite what they designed it to excel in. First one is 4K is very disappointing. Quality is good. Right now I'm shooting in 4K, but it crops it in like crazy. I mean, it's almost 2 times the crop. For example, this right here is if I leave everything the exact same and switch over to 1080p, which is full frame. So yeah, 4K, a little bit zoomed in. Vlogging is completely out of the question. Not just because of the crop, because there's no dual pixel focus. It has facial tracking and I think 1-point focus. It is very slow. Like, right now shooting a video like this is actually very challenging. Some of my other previous videos, the facial tracking would just decide to lock on my guitar or lock on the logo of my computer. If your entire first 3 minutes are locked on your computer, it kind of a problem. I will say though that the focus is quite a bit better with RF lenses versus the adapter and an L series lens. So like a video like this, I've switched over to an RF lens. It is behaving a lot better. So stuff does change versus what lens you're using. If you're using EF or RF lenses, along with the disadvantages thing, the low light in 1080p is not great. It's quite muddy. Now, I have noticed that if you switch over to the RF lenses, it is quite a bit better because they are very sharp. This camera has no IS. It has digital IS, which basically crops it in just a little bit and then kind of removes some of the jitters. It doesn't crop it in much. It does lose you a little bit of detail though. Battery life. There's advantages and disadvantages to this. You have small batteries, they're quick to charge, but they also are smaller so they run out quicker. For vlogging, I could go almost an entire day. Not quite. Pretty good, not great. Now let's have a brief discussion about the photography use of this camera. And in my opinion, this is where this camera excels. Check out this photo that I shot of my friend, the before and the after. It is pretty phenomenal. This thing grabs a ton of detail from the shadows, and from the lights. You can just really manipulate the colors. It's just beautiful. Portrait photography is really fun though, because this thing has pupil detection, like autofocus, makes portraits very sharp and very easy. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections allow you to transfer photos directly to your mobile devices straight from your camera. The raw version of this camera in photo has a really good compression rate, so it actually saves quite a bit of card space, but yet still grabs a lot of detail. Some disadvantages for photography with this camera would be like the low battery life because of the electronic viewfinder, as we mentioned before. Personally, I don't really like the viewfinder to begin with. It is cool that you can see your changes when you're looking through it, but it's really muddy. Certain versions of photography aren't as great in this camera. So for example, sports photography or wildlife photography, stuff that you need a lot of quick stuff. Not great because this thing doesn't have a super high continuous rate of fire. So I've done some sports photography with it. It is a little bit hard. It doesn't just like, it's not just super quick. And the last disadvantage we're going to talk about with photography is the silent shutter mode. It's not dead quiet, but it is decent. I've definitely heard worse. Final decision on this camera, it was a no-brainer for us. We could sell our other cameras, make money, and upgrade multiple years and new features and size and compatibility. It was kind of a no-brainer for us and what we use them for. I do want to clarify something really quickly. This is a really good starter camera, I would say, but I am not going to make this decision for you. You need to really self-evaluate what you would use this camera for and whether or not it would meet your needs. It's really easy to get really hyped after a video like this and only remember and focus on the pros, and then you combine that with really excitement about buying a camera and it's cheap and yay. You really need to focus on the disadvantages too. Really quickly, just want to remind you guys that a video like this is very time consuming. Takes a lot of work, takes around 10 to 15 hours to produce. If you want to help me further my goal of becoming a full-time YouTuber, simply liking this video or commenting down below actually goes a really long ways. I will leave links in the description to other review videos and to the websites where you can review and look at the pros and cons for photography, video, whatever you use this thing for, it's covered somewhere. You can also buy it down there if you would like. It's an affiliate link, so I will get a pushback. Part of the process of becoming a full-time YouTuber. It's very exciting to think about upgrading, so hopefully this pushed you in the right direction. That being said, as always, gentlemen, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next video.